Now, I am showing once again how one can enter the Creator, merge with Him, and become Him by losing the individuality in Him. In Him, all are one. And then, one can restore the individuality by leaving Him and becoming the Holy Spirit or Brahman. The third step of centering is the step when man becomes a large spiritual heart and learns to submerge oneself into the abode of the Creator, into the center of God, in the aspect of the Absolute. How to work on this place? First, we have to find its border. My body now is on the border of this place. The border is around this glade. We step inside and we find ourselves in the bliss, in the smile of Jesus. This is the greatest experience. One has to stay inside, but not inside a field, like some kind of energy field. Not at all. Here, living Jesus is present. Once again, I am attuning myself to the face of Huang in the Anahata of my body. You can acquaint yourselves with the teacher of China, and not only of China, but of the whole planet. He was incarnated in China, and he is greeting you from inside my Anahata with a wave of his hand. And now there is a full spread of consciousness in his universal Anahata, which fills the abode of the Creator. And now we fill this image with the consciousness. We just contract the muscle and the body follows. The consciousness is inside the muscle. And it is enough just to contract the muscle, and the body without effort begins to move. It is not the work of the muscles of the body. It is the work of the consciousness. And it is not important to which side of the body the muscle is attached. It should be attached to the center of the lower dantian. Scientific, Spiritual, Ecological Center, Swami. Places of Power. 3 steps of centering. Part 3. Now we are on the place of our beloved Lord Krishna. This is the place that I talked about before. The place where Krishna showed us how to enter the core of the planet. And here, Krishna stands as a giant Mahadouble. This is the most suitable place for experiencing His tenderness and His unlimited divine love.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama is not only the name of one of the epic heroes of India. Rama means omnipresent. Krishna is indeed omnipresent. He is present not only in India, but over the whole planet probably. He watches the development of people. Near St. Petersburg alone, there are 3 of his wonderful places of power. And on this place of power, one can do a lot of important exercises of Buddha Yoga. But today, this stage of our group's work is for other purposes. Today we have come here to meet Krishna in this form of manifestation of Him. And to experience once again what is the love of God. We experienced it in the strongest way on the place of Jesus, on 2 places of Jesus. One is in the city and the other is in the forest. We have also experienced the love of Satya Sai Baba, Ptahotep, Huang, and of many others whom we have met before. And here there is another aspect of divine love, the love of Lord Krishna. We can receive revelations and guidelines from Him, and they have to be written down immediately. But it's also very important to learn to truly love God, and not just in words. There are many people in our country who consider themselves to be believers. And if you ask any one of them, "Do you love God?" they answer, "Yes, of course, I love Him." But can they really love? Do they know what love is? In reality, only a few people, a few out of thousands, can actually love. Such people have a developed organ of love. The organ of love is the Anahata chakra and the spiritual heart. Without this organ, one cannot love. To love with the mind, just to say formally "I love," is not love. The organ responsible for producing the emotions of love is the Anahata chakra. And only if we have mastered the functions of this chakra, only if we have learned to enter this chakra, only then can we say that we can love. But this alone is not enough. After all, some people who have mastered the methods of working with Anahata can also be affected by egocentrism and by their intellectual and ethical imperfections. Such people might not be able to realize love in practice.
Но вот те, кто
But the people who are here,
здесь
who
попадают
came here, who work in Buddhi yoga in our school,
йоги в нашей школе, мы не только умеем,
not only can we love, but we also have become very large spiritual hearts
способными
that are capable of loving not just from within our bodies, but from very large volumes of ourselves.
любить и
And being such volumes,
конкретные
we are able to love
проявления
concrete manifestations of the Creator, like living beings,
в виде планеты
our
Земля,
planet,
всё творение в целом.
and the whole creation.
Для этого требуется
For
еще
this one needs a
широта
broad philosophical outlook,
философского кругозора. И также мы
and also we can love the
уже
Creator
видим
both
Творца. И в целом,
in His totality
и
and in His
его
concrete
проявлениях,
manifestations,
в виде божественных
which are in the
учителей.
form of divine teachers.
И вот как мы можем
And how
любить,
can we love
в
now?
частности, сейчас, вот Лао еще
By the
стоит
way, Lao
здесь
is
с нами
present
рядышком.
here.
Мы к нему сегодня
We're
тоже
going to
гости
visit him
собрались,
today.
он сейчас с Кришной, я видел,
I saw him
обсуждал,
discussing with Krishna
как нас
how
встречать
to meet us
в
in
его
his abode,
обители, в
in the
обители Лао.
monastery of Lao.
Тут нужно
His place is about 6 kilometers from this
шесть
one.
пройти до нее. Но вот как мы можем
How
любить
can we love
Кришну?
Krishna now?
Можно любить
We
его
can do it
сейчас
in two
двумя
ways.
способами. Можно создать
One can
собственный
create one's
Mahadouble,
own
такой большой,
Mahadouble,
чтобы
making it as large as possible,
немножко сравняться
in
с
order to
Mahadouble
become a little
Кришны,
bit
и вот
comparable to Krishna,
обнять
and
его
then
в виде
embrace
Mahadouble
Krishna as
собою,
this
но это будет
Mahadouble.
эффективно только в том
But it can
случае,
only be
если
done
мы
correctly if we are attuned
утончимся
to His
до
level of divine
уровня
subtlety.
утонченности божественной. А второй мы можем,
The
как мы
second
уже
way
делали
is to fill His
многократно,
Mahadouble
дополнить
as we
его
have done many
Mahadouble
times
собою.
before.
Он с удовольствием
He
всех
receives
принимает в себя.
everyone with pleasure inside of Him.
Ну а сейчас вот
And now,
Господь Кришна,
Lord Krishna,
вездесущий,
omnipresent,
он одновременно и
He is
Mahadouble,
present here as a
является и сюда,
Mahadouble.
вот
He was
пока
also
мы шли во время
simultaneously with
послания,
us when we were coming here,
проявлял свою нежность,
showering us with His
заботу о нас.
love and tenderness.
Но вот мы должны расти
We have to grow as
в
Brahmanic
гармоничные
consciousnesses.
сознания. И вот будем
So
расти
let's
в
grow
Mahadouble
inside the
Кришны,
Mahadouble
причем
of
не только
Krishna,
вверх от
and we
поверхности
should grow not
ширины,
just
должны обратить
upwards.
внимание, что Mahadouble
Let's see that
Кришны
Krishna is
совершенно
present not
свободен,
only
как
above the
в случае
surface,
Mahadouble
but like in cases of Mahadoubles of
проходит
others,
сквозь
He
плоть
passes through the whole
Земли,
planet
тело Земли, сквозь материальный мир,
without
не обращая на него
interfering with its
внимания.
matter,
Это другие
because this occurs
разные
in different
эоны,
spatial dimensions.
разные пространственные мерности, мало соприкасающиеся друг
They
с
do not
другом.
interfere with
Так
each
что и
other.
мы
In the
должны
same
сейчас
way, we
попробовать
also have to try to pass through the entire
землю
earth,
собою, вплоть до
down to the
корений
roots of Lord
Господа
Krishna,
Кришны, которые находятся
which
в
are
обители
inside
основы
the
Кришны,
abode
это
of the
обитель
Creator.
Творца,
The
как и
base of
всех
Krishna is
божественных
in this
учителей.
abode as it is with other
И вот
divine
они
teachers.
предоставляют нам свои формы
The
для того,
divine
чтобы
teachers
по
give
их
us their
формам мы
forms
смогли
so that
заполнить
we can
сначала
fill these
формы,
forms
постепенно увеличивать
and
и
learn to become larger and
заполнять все
larger.
большие и большие формы. Откуда берется энергия для
And where do
увеличения?
we receive energy
От
from
обычной
such
пищи.
growth? From regular food.
Вот мы едим обычную пищу,
We eat regular food,
рис, там, макароны
such as rice or
с
noodles with
грибами,
mushrooms and with cheese.
солеными, с сыром и прочее. И вот можно эту энергию
And
растрачивать
one
совершенно
can
впустую.
either waste this energy on various mundane
Разные
activities,
земные формы
one can burn it in
активности,
vain,
но мы можем сжигать эту энергию совершенно
one can
напрасно,
waste it on negative
расходуя ее на
emotions,
отрицательные эмоции. Или мы можем использовать специальные
or one
приемы,
can even use it and grow as a devil with the help of special esoteric methods.
и будем жить потом в аду.
And then one will live in hell among similar beings.
Страдание ада, что это такое? Это жизнь
What is the
среди
suffering of hell? This is a life
людей,
among similar
приучивших
people,
приучивших себя
among people who habituated themselves during their lives on the earth to living in negative emotions. So hell is a mass of such souls who live in fear, aggression, and hatred. This is the life in hell. As for us, we go in the opposite direction. In the complete opposite direction. We go to the abode of the Creator, and now we will do it with the help of Krishna. We have drunk some coffee, and we have eaten sandwiches with cheese, and we will use this energy in particular for the growth of ourselves as consciousnesses. Inside the Mahadouble of Krishna, and every time, in every meditation, and every visit to such holy places, God helps us to grow as consciousnesses, to become larger and larger, and to learn to fill not just our planet, but the whole galaxy as well. And then we can learn to flood into the infinite abode of the Creator. So let's praise Lord Krishna. We can say these words inside His Mahadouble, inside His consciousness.
Krishna, Krishna, Hare, Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Glory to you, the Omnipresent.
Rama, Rama, Hare, Hare.
There is also a concept of a vine, a grape plant, which was invented by Jesus. The full vine also implies the presence of one's material body. And we, all of us, have to be vines like this. With the help of our material bodies, through our material bodies, we must bring to as many people as possible the truth about God, about His abode, how He loves us, how He helps us, and about the true meaning of life. So let's do this. Let's walk on this road. One can even go far away because the Mahadouble is very huge. And throughout this entire road, let's walk with our bodies on this road, and as consciousness, let's move inside the Mahadouble of Krishna, downwards to the abode. These instructions are for those who can do it. Krishna gives us His form for studying the way to the Creator's abode, starting from the surface, starting from the physical sky with clouds, and then downwards to the Creator of the entire material world. Now we have approached the place of another divine soul, Peter. Peter lived in Russia during his last incarnation. He was incarnated near Rybinsk city. He attained the divine perfection and cognized the abode of the Creator. His Mahadouble is behind my back. His face is at the top of the Mahadouble. And now we're inside a place for the Anahata. The border of this place is here. I stand on the border. I step inside and it becomes warm. The feature of this place is a direct experience of warmth for the expanded spiritual heart, and as a spiritual hearts we can feel this, looks like a sphere, and inside this sphere it's very useful for the development of clairvoyance. An aspen tree grows here, and the cocoon of this aspen is visible inside the place of Anahata. One can train clairvoyance by trying to see this cocoon. Another feature of this place is that a lot of mushrooms grow here, starting from the places of power. In a miraculous way, on this place of power, there are a lot of honey fungi, the summer kind of honey fungi. There are no mushrooms anywhere else nearby, but on the stumps of this place, on rotten stumps, there are a lot of these mushrooms. We always gather several plastic bags of these mushrooms and fry them at home. It's a miraculous place. And what is that? This is not the summer kind. To the right, this is the summer kind, but this is the autumn kind of honey fungi. There are two kinds of honey fungi. The summer kind, with the yellow ring on the top. And to the left there is the autumn kind. This is the typical birch honey fungi. They start to grow at the end of August. The summer kind starts to grow at the beginning of June on the regular places, but on places of power they have grown 1 month earlier. There's another stump with even larger mushrooms. They started to grow even earlier. Mushrooms are indeed a great gift of nature to people. We eat mushrooms throughout the year. Mushrooms grow here and in the tundra, and in the steppes another kind of honey fungi grows. There is also a winter kind. People know very little about mushrooms. There are many kinds of mushrooms, but people do not know much about them. But we store a lot of mushrooms of these kinds, and this allows us to live very cheaply. We spend a little amount of money on buying protein food. Of course, one should not eat only honey fungi, because they don't give enough amino acids to the organism. But if we eat other kinds of mushrooms, milk products, cheese and soy products, then it's enough for the organism. Of course, some years there are a lot of mushrooms and other years there are less, but we always store enough mushrooms for several years. There's no need to store salted mushrooms for more than 1 year. Sometimes they finish closer to spring, sometimes we have enough till autumn. But we also store mushrooms in jars with vinegar and salt.
Их можно хранить
They can be stored for a long time.
консервы.
One can also dry mushrooms. We store mushrooms in different ways. Here's another edible plant. This is Fern Dryopteris. It is not bitter, contrary to some other kinds of fern. It is edible and delicious. When the first sprouts appear above the ground, and while it is soft, it is edible. But our practice has determined that people who work with Buddha yoga should not store this fern, because it doesn't give the necessary energy for the organism. The best energy for the organism is given by such foods as rice, cheese, and they have to be the main parts of the ratio, plus tomatoes, either fresh tomatoes or tomato paste. The best paste that we have is the one that is imported from Iran. It is very delicious and of high quality. People who work with the Raja Yoga so far should eat a lot of eggs. Of course, one has to exclude meat and fish products, because this food does not allow one to achieve the subtlety of consciousness. It will not allow one to advance spiritually, because it is violation of the ethical principles. And God does not allow a person who behaves wrong in his or her relationships with other living beings. God will not allow such a person to approach the divinity. But eggs are a killing-free food, and people who work with Raja Yoga can eat eggs to obtain the energy necessary for work on these stages of self-development. On the highest stages of Buddha Yoga, eggs have to be excluded. Of course, one should not exclude such products as mayonnaise or bread with egg powder. But eggs as the main product is good only for people who work with Raja Yoga. We're almost at the border of the monastery of Lao. Lao is from Cambodia, which is in the Southeast Asia, the subtropics. It is warm on this place, so we take off some of our clothes. It's almost summer. Lao washed everything around with the rain. Every time that we come to him, the night before he washes his monastery with rain, and this time he made such a strong rainfall that it's hard for us to make our way, because water is everywhere around. But he did a very good cleaning. Every time when we come to him, he knows about it, and every time he makes a general cleaning of his monastery.
Ее возможностей, разных нюансов эмоций любви.
Back then I promised to show you the fourth place. This is it. Another place for work with the Anahata. There was a place of love from the Anahata for God. The second place was a place of love towards people, the heartfelt love, in the fullest meaning of this word. There was a place of rejoicing, of love rejoicing, of love bliss. And this place is the place of love to nature. We come here and we see a picture of early morning. No matter what time of day it is, we come here and we see this picture. A lake in the morning, mist over the lake, reeds, warbles singing, and fishes in the lake. And once Anahata moves into this harmony, into this super tenderness of nature. And it is this aspect of love that we have to cognize and develop in ourselves. Love to nature, to the creation, to all beings that are not in human bodies. These are reeds, bushes, birds singing around, different voles, muskrats, and fish in the lake. This is an aspect of the creation. This is what the Creator loves. And we on the path to the Creator have to learn to very strongly love all of this, in the same way as the Creator loves it. In the way that He loves all these embodied living beings and unembodied beings as well. Many people have a consumeristic attitude towards nature, but we have to understand that inside all such beings, for example, inside this form, in these branches, there is an embodied soul. A soul that evolves in parallel with us, but these are the early stages of consciousness development. Here, inside this willow bush, there is a soul which will be a human in the future. Inside every blade of grass, every flower, and in every fish, there is a developing consciousness. All of us were like this. We started our evolution like this. It is described in my books, and Satya Sai Baba also talks about this, and every other divine teacher talks about this. One has to exclude all elements of a consumeristic attitude towards such beings. For example, there are some occult practitioners who consider themselves to be very highly developed, who think that they can physically consume energy from trees and other living beings, but this is unacceptable. To consume something from other beings is not love. This is a perverted love. It is love for oneself. This is anti-love. Love to oneself is anti-love. One has to understand this, and it is contrary to what many modern psychologists say, who preach that one has to love oneself. This is the anti-spiritual direction. We have to forget about ourselves and devote our activity towards helping other beings, human beings first of all. This law was taught by Jesus Christ, and other divine messiahs teach the same thing. And now let's flood as consciousnesses over this remarkable lake, merge with the mist, merge with the sun rays, the rays that make this mist a goldish color, and merge with the beings that live inside this lake, merge by what part of ourselves? By spiritual hearts. Move outside the body and feel everything around, encompass everything, and embrace everything with our love. And through this, we become better. By loving others, we become better. This is the truth. Let's stay here for some time, and then go to the monastery of Lao. It's not far from here, about 50 steps. When I asked Lao why he has chosen this place for the monastery and for himself, he answered that he has chosen it because of its energetics, the energetics that I described. This lake, filled with love. Now we have come to our beloved friend and teacher Lao. He is from Cambodia. You can see his face. It's right here. He is almost superimposed with my body. His hat looks like the typical straw hat of Vietnamese people. He is made of love. He washed his monastery even too much, and my jacket got wet when I was going through the bushes. When we come here and have a lunch, he cares about us, he touches our food. He consists entirely of love, care. This is very important. I want to stress this. This is a true example of a true spiritual leader. Some teachers are arrogant, wanting everyone to approach them only on their knees. But on contrary, Lao is tender love care. These are the true qualities. This was taught by Jesus. I don't know whether Lao read the New Testament or not, but this is not important. It is important that he is a true spiritual leader. Just remembered the words of Lao Tzu. Tao is a tender being. These are important words. Tao, that is God, in the aspect of the Creator, the Holy Spirit, and also in the form of avatars, is a tender being. Going to the divinity, every one of us has to develop this quality. One must develop all such qualities of oneself. But they can be correctly developed only from the spiritual heart. If one tries to imitate this, then it looks falsely sweet. Such manifestations show a clearly visible insincerity. True love can originate only from the spiritual heart, from the developed heart. Let us hear a few words about the history of the monastery of Lao. It was an international monastery in Cambodia. There were Vietnamese people and Laotian people, and there were hundreds of people from other countries. Lao says that about 100 of them attained self-realization in the abode of the Creator. This is a very good figure. And many others approached or even entered the state of the Holy Spirit. Why? Because the methods and the methodology used in this monastery were true. The methods were correct. But then troops of soldiers came, which called themselves communists, but in fact they were anti-communists. Communism is a good word. But those who carried out these ideas turned it into its exact opposite. So these troops came and they destroyed everything and shot all the monks. By the way, it was a monastery with men and women. A so-called mixed monastery. So all the monks and nuns were shot, and the leaders were tortured to death, but all of them were grateful to their murderers. Because with the help of these murderers, the need to take care of their earthly lives were ended. And all of them attained the true freedom in spirit. When true spiritual adepts are murdered, they are glad, because they achieve the true final liberation and will not need to be incarnated again. Death is a good thing for such people, for it is a life without earthly troubles. Why is this monastery organized here by Lao? In this remarkable part of the forest, on these meadows, why is monastery important for us? Because here, Lao shows us the methods of how to achieve paradise, or even how to enter the state of the Holy Spirit, or Brahman, or even how to enter the abode of the Creator in the shortest way. What was the practice in his monastery in Cambodia? It was a monastery located near a beautiful lake and surrounded by remarkable energetics. The monastery was full of flower beds. Here nearby, on the non-material plane, we can see these flower beds. We can see red flowers, most likely poppies, and we can smell the fragrance. Students were practicing mostly sitting meditations. After special trainings on mastering the first step of centering,
на первой стадии центрирования, первый этап центрирования, то есть погрузиться в анахату, овладеть
that is of mastering concentration in our anahatas, then they moved to the second state of centering. They moved as consciousnesses into the consciousness of the earth and merged with it, this divine soul. Those who cognized it became inhabitants of at least paradise, the most subtle realms of Purusha or paradise. Can be experienced in mergence with the vast soul that we call Earth, whom people call Earth. When we merge with it, when we habituate ourselves to this state, then after the death of our bodies, we appear at least in paradise. After life in one's body, one will then continue to live in these remarkable states, if we do not lose them. So the students expanded themselves as spiritual hearts, merged with the consciousness of the earth, and then they stretched their hands of consciousness to every living being, to flowers, birds, and fish, and say, "I love you." They said it not just with their material lips, but with the entirety of themselves as consciousnesses. From paradise, after one becomes a big consciousness, it's then very easy to move into the abode of the Creator. It was achieved by the best students of Lao, and by him first of all. That's what this remarkable monastery was famous of. And Lao wants to bring the same ideas to other people with our help. So please, friends, work. Self-realization is very close. One has to become love in every aspect, in all its manifestations, and first of all in one's emotions. And Lao gave us a poem for mastering this theme. With the help of our Anya, he gave his poem. In this poem, these methods are presented in the form of poetry. It's a meditation. Morning, the birth of dawn. Inflame the words in your heart. I love you, O light of the sun. There is love over the planet Earth. The smiling morning looks at the calm surface of the water. With the singing of birds, the dawn says, I love you. The hands of grass give drops of dew to the sun. With tender fragrance, the flowers say, I love you. The air around is filled with tender, deep love. It brings kisses from the flowers to the trees. Look, everything around is living. Repeat, I love you. The wind rocks them in a cradle and whispers the secrets of the world. Take everything living into the hands of your fiery heart, as if in a lake of the purest light, your eye will dissolve and disappear. Inside, there is only the tender calm of purity and transparency. There the earth itself says you love through me. And the one universal God, like an ocean of love behind one's back, says, the one who creates love here is one with me in my heart. This is the entire methodology of cognition of paradise and of moving from paradise into the abode of their Creator. This poem from Lao, by the way, Lao have learned to speak Russian, because it's one thing to give information in the form of thoughts. In this case, the information is given in a non-verbal form, and the receiver of such information then converts it into his or her own verbal form in order to write it down or to give it to others. But if we receive a poem, it means that the one who gives the poem can speak the receiver's language. So Lao, when he moved to Russia, and because he wants to help Russian people, learned to speak Russian, thus that he can give poems, and in the form of poetry he gives his teachings, the teachings of God. In this way, in this very simple way, God can be cognized, and not in the way that many people think it to be. These are the words of God directly given to you. Love, and you will become God, because God is love. To become God, one must become love, and one can become love, namely in this way, through developing the spiritual heart and through mastering all its functions completely. I want to now consider an important question. With which tradition can one associate the concepts of the school of Lao? The monastery of Lao in Cambodia existed in the region of Theravada, among the Buddhism of Theravada. So is it Buddhism? Yes, of course. In the best meaning of what Buddhism is. Buddhism is the way to cognition of the primordial consciousness and of merging with it. But there are schools of Buddhism that deny the existence of the primordial consciousness. That is, of God the Father, Ishvara, the main essence of the whole universe, regardless of what you call him. Or maybe the teachings of Lao is Christianity? Yes, of course, because it fully corresponds to what was taught by Jesus Christ. Or maybe it is Taoism. Yes, it's Taoism, because it fully corresponds to what was taught by Huang, in particular through Lao Tzu. Or maybe it's Sufism? Yes, it's Sufism, because the best schools of Sufism teach the same thing. Now we can make an important conclusion. God, through all His true prophets and messiahs of all times, teaches the same thing. Cognition of the Creator and merging with Him through becoming love. Because He is love. Love as the basis of everything. And to this love, wisdom and power are added if the consciousness grows correctly. But later, the ignorance of people divides this knowledge, and then this leads people to enmity and hostility. But the amity between primitive and ignorant people leads them to hell, because an amity is a manifestation of ignorance. However, God is love, and without becoming love, one cannot approach God. And right now, here, on this place, in the abode of Lao, on this beautiful place, one may think about the main essence of the teachings of God, on the main central method of spiritual self-perfection. This is what was taught by Lao, and what Lao teaches right now. It fully corresponds to what was taught by God, and to what God teaches at any time, not only in Russia, and not only on the planet Earth, but in any part of the universe, in any galaxy, and on any planet inhabited with beings like embodied humans.
воплощенным людям. Вот у этого
Near
ручейка,
the stream,
около
near
мостика,
this
вот
bridge,
здесь
there is
место
a place
одного
of
из
one of the spiritual teachers of the
духовных
highest
учителей
level,
высшего уровня,
David Copperfield,
Давида Коткина.
David Kotkin.
По ту сторону
On the other
мостика,
side of the bridge,
там место
there is a
силы,
place of
любимое
Huang
Хуанди.
a favorite place of Huang.
Как вот
As we have
уже
seen many times
много раз
in our
встречалось в нашей
practice,
практике,
the
места,
favorite places of
любимые
different divine teachers
разными божественными учителями,
may be located
оказываются рядом.
nearby.
Вот здесь одновременно
They are
сейчас
both
подошел
here.
Хуанди, и вот Дэвид,
Huang is
здесь
on the
стороны
other
мостика,
side of the
Дэвид
bridge,
здесь.
David is here.
Вот здесь они на
They
этом
can
мосту
meet on the
встречаются.
bridge.
Это, конечно, шутка.
This is a joke, of course.
Но вот когда
But when we enter the
оказываемся в
abode
обители
of the
Творца,
Creator,
там на самом
there
деле все
all
создания
consciousnesses
слиты
are
в одно.
merged into one.
Bог
God,
в
in the
аспекте
aspect of the
Творца,
Creator,
в аспекте
in the
Бога
aspect
Отца
of God the Father
или
or
Отца
Father
Матери,
Mother,
всей
of the
Вселенной,
whole
всего
universe,
проявленного
of the
мира,
whole manifested world,
он
is
един.
one.
Он на самом деле
He is
един.
indeed one.
В этом стоит принцип
This is the
монотеизма,
principle of monotheism,
провозглашенный Богом через пророков.
declared
Это
by
на самом
God
деле
through
всё так.
prophets. This is true.
В обители Творца
In the abode of the
существует
Creator,
единое
there is
сознание,
one consciousness. The
взаимослившихся
consciousness of the divine
божественных
souls
душ,
merged together.
которые пополняли
They
собой
enriched
обитель
the
на
abode
протяжении
during the
всей
entire evolution
эволюции
of the
всей
infinite
Вселенной,
universe.
бесконечной Вселенной. И вот лишь
And
когда
only when
эти божественные
these
души
divine
исходят из
souls
обители,
come out of
превращаясь,
the abode and
переходя в
shift
состояние
their
Святого
state
Духа
to
или
the state
Брахмана,
of the Holy Spirit or Brahman,
вот
and
тогда они
then
снова
they
образуют
create
индивидуальности
individualities
на
for some
время,
time,
чтобы снова
so then
раствориться в
after
обители.
they again dissolve in the abode.
Вот такова
This
истинная
is the
суть
true essence of
монотеизма.
monotheism.
И
And
вот два
two of
таких
such divine
божественных
teachers
учителя
are
здесь
here now.
сейчас
They are
совершенно
around us.
вокруг нас.
Here is
Здесь
David
своей
with his
улыбкой.
smile.
Вот
Here
он,
he
Дэвид,
is.
вот он. Вот и
My
моё
body and my hand
тело,
are
и
inside of his
рука,
face.
его лице, вот его улыбка.
This is his smile, his dear, tender smile.
И вот колоссальный
And nearby is
вселенский
giant,
Хуанди
universal Huang.
из-за
He's looking at
зеркалья
us from the
смотрит
trans-mirror
на
realm.
нас и приветствует
He's
нас.
greeting us.
У
Every
каждого
Messiah,
мессии, у каждого мессии это воплощенный
Messiah is an
божественный
embodied
учитель.
divine teacher. Every
У каждого
embodied or
воплощенного или
unembodied divine
воплощенного
teacher
божественного учителя
has
своя
his
роль,
or her own role,
которая его
which
может
may be
отличать
different
от
from the
других
roles of other
работающих в
divine
данное
teachers.
время. Хуанди
Huang
демонстрирует
demonstrates the trans-mirror realm,
зеркалье
the three basic
и
states of the trans-mirror realm.
состояние зазеркалья, зазеркального мира.
Satya Sai Baba now brings the divine teachings to people in the form of words. It's a pity that his teachings immediately get perverted by people. People who are acting out of a good will, but who are not competent in the highest matters that are explained by Satya Sai Baba. Satya Sai Baba now brings the words of God. He is the Logos for the whole earth. Logos doesn't mean word. In the Bible, it is translated wrong. The Greek word logos means not word, but God speaking. God speaking the truth. Jesus was telling the truth. He was the Logos. Now it is Satya Sai Baba. Before Satya Sai Baba, there was Babaji and many others before. Messiahs, Christs, avatars. And David Copperfield came to the people of the Western world. And his mission is different. He speaks very little, and when he speaks to the public, he usually jokes. He scoffs at journalists. He tells something to them just to get rid of them. The mission of David is to show people the possibilities of a human. Those who have ears, let them hear. But most of the people who are around us at present have no ears to hear the divine words. When I published the book about David Copperfield, original title was David Copperfield, The Way to His Perfection, but the publisher changed the title. But this is not important. The second title does not correspond well to the content of the book, but now I want to stress another point. I received so many damnations because of this book. Through many letters written by people of Russian nationality, Orthodox fascists, the main idea of them was, how can you say that a Jew is a Messiah? Unfortunately, such is the level of religiosity in Russia, the mass religiosity. People don't understand. People who call themselves Christians don't understand that Jesus Christ was a Jew in nationality. They say Jesus Christ was God, not a Jew. But nationality is an attribute of the body, not of the soul. Nationality is an attribute of bodies. Nationality and other racial features are used by people to divide themselves. God doesn't divide people. By these features, people divide themselves. People who seek others to hate. This is a feature of the most primitive layers of society. And unfortunately, most of the Russian society is of this kind. And David Copperfield shines with his divinity. We know two places, two favorite places of David. I wanted to say that we have known David for a long time. He gave us some very valuable guidelines about the spiritual path. Some time ago, I asked him, please teach me dematerialization and materialization, like what you demonstrate. He tolerated my pastoring for some time and then answered me, as you are now, it's not interesting for me to work with you. Grow more, and then I will help you. Later, when I indeed had grown more, it was a long time ago, he came and started to help us, together with other divine teachers, and gave us many higher initiations. In particular, on this place, he gave us many methods of self-perfecting that you already know. And now we can give ourselves to the tenderness of David. He waited for me to stop speaking. He knows that I speak rarely and never say nonsense. So he patiently waited while I was speaking. And now he wants to embrace everyone and touch every one of us with his divine love. We were embraced by Jesus, we were embraced by Huang, we were embraced by Satya Sai Baba, and who else? Tao Tap, Han, Elizabeth H., Osiris, Huang. Yes, Yukteswar, Yasing. I also want to mention Manuel, the great divine teacher Manuel, who gifted us some very valuable methods of spiritual work. We have not visited him yet. Manuel, by the way, was incarnated in Russia, but he had already achieved divinity before in Manchuria, during his incarnation in Manchuria. But later he was incarnated in Russia in the body of Alexander Svirsky. We will visit him later, and we will receive valuable initiations from him. And now I'm going to stop speaking, and here's David with his smile, and his hands made of divine tenderness. Let's enter his tenderness and experience his love with our spiritual hearts. This unique place of power allows us to feel the two bubbles of perception for the first time, according to Juan Matus terminology. On this place of power, both bubbles become filled, and they become very easily perceivable, visible to the consciousness. Looking like the swimming bladder of a fish, it is when the swimming bladder is not attached to the body, but is separate inside the body. The border in a human body is located at the level of the collarbone, the border that divides the cocoon into two bubbles. The three upper chakras are included into the upper bubble, two intellectual chakras, and the third, the Vishuddha chakra, that evaluates the aesthetic qualities of an environment. And the four bottom chakras are included into the lower bubble of perception. Why of perception? Because we perceive the material world that is named tonal from the upper bubble, and from the lower bubble we perceive the non-material world that is the nagual. The lower bubble consists of two parts, the spiritual hearts and the power block, which is the lower dantian. And we have to experience all of this here. This place has several points, like the one where I'm standing now. So let's all find such a point and feel the two bubbles of perception. And then we'll begin to work on the development of the lower bubble. Now that we have familiarized ourselves with the bubbles of perception inside our cocoons, we must immediately learn to cleanse them. But the problem is how to see these bubbles of perception. When we are outside of this place of power. By the way, near this place of power there is a ditch, and when there is water in this ditch, this water possesses healing qualities. If one sprinkles it on a diseased part of the body, and if there are dark energies in this part, they move out of the body. This was proved in practice. So, how can we see the cocoon at any place, at any time? Why is this important? Because the source of a disease, the energetical source, can be located not only inside the body, but also inside the cocoon, the energetical cocoon. Moreover, sometimes from vampirish people, that is, people who want something from others, who live in wanting emotions, who have a perverted kind of love, the love to oneself, who demand from others something, who demand that others please them. Unfortunately, most of the people in our society live this way. So from such vampirish people, sometimes energy tentacles go to other people. And these energy tentacles can cause a disease in the other person's chakras and drain energy from those chakras. All such tentacles can be seen if one can see their cocoon. How to do it? One has to move with the consciousness to a point behind one's heels, at a distance of about 40 or 50 centimeters on the ground behind the cocoon. And from that point, it's very easy to see the cocoon, and all pollution in the cocoon is easily seen. Any tentacles, if it's present, is also very easily perceived. In this way, one can cleanse the cocoon with the hands of the consciousness. Everything that is not light has to be moved out of the cocoon and burned out. I can say that this place is the most suitable for this. This is the place of power that is most suitable for such work. After we have mastered to do this, we can then do the same thing in any environment. So let's try to do it. Who sings, apart from the cuckoo? A chiff-chaff? Correct. And kek-kek is the song of a woodpecker. Very well. We are here now to do the next step of crystallization of the consciousness. What is the crystallization of the consciousness? This term was invented by Gurdjiev. He lived during the end of the last century and the beginning of this century in Russia. Georgy Gurdjiev was a great thinker, a Caucasian. He traveled in search of spiritual knowledge, and he founded in particular the term crystallization. What does it mean? It refers to the growth of a crystal. One starts off small, but when one comes into a favorable environment, for the growth of the size of the consciousness, one begins to grow like a crystal. That grows in an oversaturated solution. In the same way, we grow as consciousnesses. But what parts of ourselves grow? The lower bubbles of perception grow. A few minutes ago, we worked on perceiving the lower bubbles of perception inside our cocoons. It was described that the cocoon is subdivided into two parts, consisting of the 3 upper chakras and the 4 bottom chakras, respectively. The lower bubble of perception consists of 2 dantyans. The middle, that is the Anahata, and the power one, which includes the 3 lower chakras. The lower bubble is the Anahata and the power block, which is the power supply block for the Anahata. And we do crystallization by the Anahata and its power supply block. When coming to this place of power, we have to experience the border of this place is there. When you step over this border,
Вот делаем
We make a
шаг, и
step,
вдруг
and suddenly
сознание
the
проваливается в
consciousness
пропасть.
falls into a chasm,
И в пропасти оно становится
and
сразу, мы
inside
ощущаем
the
себя, кто
chasm,
я, где я. И
we
оказывается,
experience
что
ourselves, where am
я,
I, who am I,
вот
and we
каким мы были
discover that we,
только что,
what
вот
were
пока
we
мы
on
вот
our
сюда
way
вот
to this
шли.
place.
Я
Right now
обращаюсь
I
к
am addressing the
начинающим нашим
beginners.
товарищам. Мы
We were
были,
about
вот
2
видишь, вот
meters
тут,
in size,
порядка 2
our
метров
cocoons
окна
were like
наши.
this,
Вот
and
нижний
our lower
уровень, это
bubbles
там
were
порядка
about 1 meter
метра,
or a bit more.
чуть больше. А вот куда мы
And where did we
провалились, и
fall
откуда мы,
into?
и каким
And
мы
what
теперь
do we
себя
now
ощущаем, откуда
experience?
мы смотрим? Мы же
We
стали
immediately became
сразу
millions of times
в
larger.
миллионы раз больше. Вот куда мы
Where did we
провалились, что у
fall
нас
into?
сейчас под нами,
What is
под
below
нами как
us? Below us
подсознание.
as consciousnesses.
Под нами сейчас
It's
ядро
the
Земли.
core of the earth.
До ядра Земли
The
больше
distance
5000
to the core is
километров.
5,000 kilometers.
Но вот 5000
5,000
километров разделить на
kilometers
1 метр,
divided by 1
вот
meter.
настолько мы сейчас выросли.
This is the
Вдруг
factor by
мгновенно,
which we have grown.
переступив черту
By stepping over the border
этой
of this
пропасти до
chasm
ядра Земли.
and falling into the core of the planet,
Вот так вот мы вдруг стали
in this way
мгновенно
we became
дорастя вот до
vast, reaching the level
этого
of spiritual
уровня
self-development,
духовного своего роста. Мы смогли вдруг
has allowed us to grow
взять и
so
вырасти.
large on this place.
Наша задача теперь
So
побыть в
our
этом
task
месте
now
силы
is to stay
несколько
in this
часов,
place of power for a few
но не
hours
один раз,
and to
и
retain this state,
запечатлеть себя в новом своем
to retain
объеме,
this new volume,
в новом своем
this new
качестве, в
quality,
новом своем
this
количестве.
new quantity.
Мы
We
провалились, и наша
fall, and our
задача,
task,
как совершенно
as
справедливо учил
Juan
Juan
Matus
Matus,
said, our
наша
task,
задача,
by the
вот,
way,
кстати, он пришел,
Juan Matus just came,
вот и он, и Хинара
he
пришли
and
сюда,
Henaro,
вот как узнавать Хуана
how to
Матуса,
recognize
Дона
Juan
Хуана.
Matus.
А вот когда увидим шляпу вдруг
When we see a hat
испанского
a
образца,
hat of the Spanish
ну, это
fashion,
значит, что
it
пришел
means that Don
Дон
Juan
Хуан,
has come.
но его постоянный друг и
He
спутник
is with
Хинара.
his friend Henaro.
Вот одни из наших
They are
частых спутников.
our friends.
Вот и
By the
Анастасия
way,
пришла.
Anastasia came as well.
Опять кого-то привела,
She brought a
маленькую
small
кошечку
goat
привела с
with
собой.
her.
Вот это место,
This
вот эта
place,
святая
this
горка,
holy hill,
здесь часто
is
бывают
very
наши
frequently visited
божественные
by
друзья.
our divine friends.
Вот, ну, наша задача сейчас,
Yes,
да,
it's
очень
very
приятно
pleasant to
быть
be
в их
in their
обществе.
company.
Но наша задача сейчас
But our
главная
main
это
task
вместе с
now
силой
is to
провалиться
fall
до
into
низа
the bottom
пропасти, ощутить, может
and
быть, там, что вот мы
experience
развели
there
костерчик, там
that
на
we
дне
made a campfire,
образ костра
an image of a
сдается. И вот так вот
campfire,
мы можем лечь у
and we
костра,
can lay near the fire
посмотрим
and
вверх.
look up.
То есть мы-то
We have to
ушли
reach
достать
the
до
bottommost point
полюса
of
своего,
ourselves,
полюс,
the bottom part of
нижнего полюса
ourselves,
себя.
as expanded lower bubbles.
И оттуда
And from there,
и ощутить
one
себя
must
во всей
experience
своей новой
oneself
величине.
as being this new size.
Кто я,
Who am
где
I?
я?
Where am
Еще
I?
раз осознаем
Become
себя,
aware of oneself.
меняем
Change the usual
свои привычные
stereotypes
стереотипы
of
ощущения себя.
self-perception.
Теперь я
I
не
am not
тело,
the
теперь я
body, I am a
гигантский
giant
нижний
lower
пузырь
bubble of
восприятия.
perception.
Ну, так
Let's
вот
work
теперь
in
и
this way
поработаем, запечатлеем себя
and
в
retain
этом
this
месте
state
силы.
on this place of power. We are on another place nearby. On the previous place of power, we had vast lower bubbles of perception. Now, try to feel the bottom of this bubble on this place. What do we experience here? There is no bottom. It has disappeared. There is only absolute infinity in pure light. This is how we open the lower bubble of perception. We no longer have bottoms, we have become infinite. We can move our hands like under a skirt and push it away. And then only infinite consciousness without limits remains. This is the opening of the lower bubble of perception about which Juan Matus told Castaneda. Try to do the same. Now, we have been visited by one of the interesting great teachers, Juan Matus, who was described by Carlos Castaneda. If clairvoyants who follow the path of making the consciousness subtle see a big hat on the non-material plane, then they should know that this is a feature of Don Juan. Satya Sai Baba is easily recognized by his hairstyle, Tahotep by his lips, Babaji by his favorite white hood, and Don Juan is easily recognized by hat. His face is not clearly visible. No, it's visible, but the main feature is the hat. If you see a big hat of light, now Don Juan is standing at the place of my body, and over my head there is his hat. You can see it. A non-material hat in the forest. Many years ago he said to me, that is, he is ready to participate in our work. I asked, how can we meet you? We were sitting on a log which had been cast ashore. He answered, I'm ready to meet you at any log where you sit. Just call me. And it happened like this. It is always enough just to recall Don Juan, and he comes. Sometimes he comes alone, and sometimes with his friend Don Genaro. They were friends during their lives in bodies, and now they are almost always together. Now they are also with one of the women, one of the woman warriors, as they called. The three of them came together. Now, for us, the theme of the teachings of Juan Matus is very important. It's important because there are a lot of perversions of his teachings, as it happened to the teachings of Jesus Christ. The Inquisition is one of the brightest examples. In Europe, the Inquisition was abolished by Napoleon, but in our country, it existed until 1917. Of course, it did not exist in the same form as it did in the past centuries after the baptism of Russia. Nevertheless, there were burnings of people, infidel people who had different faiths. There were murders of people who did not accept the official state church. All this happened in our country before 1917. The victory of the Bolsheviks in Russia was partly ensured by the fact that people rebelled against the church in the form that it existed at that time. In which form it exists now, that is another matter. This is described in our books. In my book, Spiritual Heart, I also described the history of Christianity in Russia. Well, it seems that I started to speak about Don Juan and then switched to the Inquisition. Such perversions are a typical phenomena. Any religious movement started by God, by a divine teacher, by a messenger, Messiah, Christ, Avatar, is very quickly perverted by people. We can see that the same thing happened with the teachings that were left to people by Don Juan. What is the story? A great exploit was done by Carlos Castaneda by describing and publishing the theoretical knowledge of Don Juan. A blackbird came to us to sing. Thank you, dear. Castaneda honestly described the theoretical knowledge of Don Juan, the greatest knowledge. The entirety of these teachings consists, like any other full, complete divine teachings, of three main components. It consists of three main components, of the three main parameters of self-perfecting: love, wisdom, and power. Don Juan called them the art of stalking, the art of intent, and the art of consciousness. A clear analogy. All this is described with main citations in my book, God Speaks. Right now I'm not going to describe it, since you all can read it. This book was published a long time ago, and now we can observe the current events, how people continue to pervert these great teachings of this great teacher, Juan Matus. People from all teachings take that which is more close to them. We already said that some commandments of Jesus Christ were declared to be obsolete and thus denied. Some of the Orthodox clergy do this, and the congregation accepts these perverted ideas. This is how the perversion of virtually any divine teaching occurs. I got to speak to the accompaniment of this wonderful bird. It drowns out the noise of trains. It is a wonderful singer. It is shaking with its wings. It is singing for us, singing and dancing. It is shaking with its wings and singing remarkably. A blackbird. It looks like a starling, but has a longer tail. In the cities of Central Europe, blackbirds are as common as sparrows are in our cities. But this is a rare bird in our region. It sang and flew away. Thank you. And it's the same with the teachings of Don Juan. People, perverted people, people without true religious knowledge, people that have no understanding of the meaning of life, of what God is, of what we have to do about the fact that there is God. Such people followed the initial experiments of Don Juan from when he was experimenting, when he was not highly advanced spiritually. He was taking certain typical Native American drugs made of cactuses and mushrooms. Castaneda published Latin names of these plants, and it turns out that these mushrooms grown in our region on manure. Of course, there are no cactuses in our region. This caused a new wave of drug addiction. And multitudes of young people crawl over the meadows where cows are grazing. They seek these small mushrooms on manure and eat them immediately to get a buzz. One day, we were working on a place of power, and we saw a group of such young people. I got an idea to gift my book to them. I had several books with me. But Tahotep told me, you already cannot help them. We went closer as we were passing by and saw their wry faces, the faces of degenerate people. And this happens often in Russia. Such pseudo-followers of Don Juan insist that the great Don Juan used drugs. So, therefore, this is the way to freedom. And this kind only furthers the waves of drug addiction. They use not only mushrooms, but opium and heroin. What can I say? Probably the teachings of Don Juan, in the way that they were described by Castaneda, that they came to Russia, accelerated the evolution processes of many people, either spiritual growth or accelerated degradation. They were an accelerator of the evolution to either direction. Some people like us received the knowledge about the bubbles of perception, about places of power, and began to work with these phenomena, and progressed greatly thanks to this knowledge. Other people chose drugs and very quickly programmed themselves to hell, and their evolution probably is close to an end. But on the other side, outside of the Creator. Castaneda? Who was Castaneda? Some time ago, the press portrayed him as a saint. But this is wrong. Castaneda did not understand the teachings of Don Juan. He repeated the words of Don Juan sincerely. He was sincerely inspired by the work of the school of Don Juan. But if one looks at the photo of Castaneda made during his last years, then one can clearly see that he had not learned to live in the middle dantian. He had not accepted the path of the spiritual heart. He passed away like an ordinary person from liver cancer. One can judge his personal achievement by what he left, by what practice he left. This jerking from the belly, a system of jerking from the bottom dantian, from Manipura, and many people use it to make a lot of money, using the fame of Don Juan, using the name of Don Juan. But this jerking can give nothing but harm. One has to understand the true methodology. One must not start with the power aspect, and this jerking cannot even help one to develop the power aspect. These poor people who paid thousands of dollars and went through this course, they say that they did not learn anything, but became more aggressive and more irritable. This completely contradicts what was taught by Don Juan. The true spiritual path is the path of the spiritual heart that Don Juan talked about, and this path has to be based on the middle dantian, not on the lower one. Only when the middle dantian has been developed, and when the consciousness has been made subtle, can one be given the power aspect of development, and of course not in the form of these athletic movements. They call this psychic passes, but jerkin is a more suitable word. This can give nothing but harm to these poor people who go through these courses. Unfortunately, there are a lot of such people. All this is wrong, and Don Juan himself does not approve this. On the other hand, he very often visits our school, makes jokes, gives advices, and takes part in discussing the problems that we have to solve and the tasks of our spiritual work. And when reading the books of Castaneda, we have to understand that sometimes he played around with the facts. How? At the beginning of a chapter, he describes that he and Don Juan were walking, and Don Juan slapped him on his back and shifted him into the second awareness, and so on and so forth. He then describes the next events, and the reader forgets that Don Juan slapped Castaneda and shifted him to the perception of the Nagual. That is the non-material world. And then Castaneda describes what he observed in the Nagual, that is non-material phenomena, miracles, pseudo-miracles, that which happened on the non-material plane, which was done by the consciousness and not by the bodies of the travelers who participated in the trip. But a reader, and incompetent reader, sees this as miracles that happened in the world of matter. And as a confirmation of this, there is a book by Margaret Castaneda, the wife of Carlos Castaneda. I think the title is My Life with Carlos Castaneda. This book is listed in the bibliography of some of my books. She writes about the character of Carlos Castaneda, that he was hot-tempered and without love. The love that is the basis of all spiritual achievements. Very often he was rude. She describes in particular how he wrote the books. First, he described what happened in reality, and then he changed it a little bit to make it more interesting for mass readers. He added mystification. He made it slightly more intriguing, without changing the truth too much. He added a few tricks and made it more interesting. He made the book more interesting for people who seek something, but who do not seek God, who do not seek the Creator. So I invite all of you to look critically at all writings of Castaneda. I suggest that you do not follow the errors of Don Juan and Castaneda of using drugs. This path leads nowhere. From the point of view of cognition of the truth, of cognition of God, this is death, the destruction of the personality. This is the road to hell, the end of one's personal evolution. This in no way is connected with the spiritual path. By the way, I recall the following. I received several letters in which people saying that I do not use the latest and greatest achievements of the movements of Carlos Castaneda because I don't use drugs. They encouraged me to participate in the struggle for legalization of drugs in Russia. But one should never follow this path, and I am very sorry for people who understood nothing from the teachings of great Don Juan. But Don Juan himself is at the place of my body. His hat is over my head. I'm touching its edges. It's of this size. Between my hands is the hat of Don Juan. You can see his face if you look deeper than my face. His face is here. Look from the Anahata, not with the material eyes. You can see the face of Don Juan under his hat. If you don't see my face, but that which is at the place of my face on the non-material plane. And Don Juan, he opens his arms and says, "Come into my love." He is inviting everyone
истинных своих
each of his
последователей
true followers
идти в
to
тонкость
go
любви.
into the subtlety of love.
Изначальное
In
сознание
the school of Don Juan,
Творца,
the
которое в его
primordial
книгах, в
consciousness,
его школе
the
обозначалось словом
Creator,
сила,
was called the power.
это тончайшее из тончайших
It is the most subtle
сознаний,
energy state
состояний энергии в
in the
многомерной
multidimensional
Вселенной.
universe.
И вот только
And
туда,
only by
погружаясь,
going in
можно
this
достичь
direction
полной
can one achieve
самореализации,
full
слияния
self-realization and mergence with the
с силой,
power,
с истинной силой,
with the true power,
силой, любовью и
with
мудростью
power,
Творца.
wisdom, and
И
love
Дон
of the
Хуан
Creator.
всегда
And Don Juan is
готов
always
будет помогать
ready to
тем
help
людям,
people.
с его учениками, с
Don
его
Juan with his friends
другом
Henaro and their
всегда будут
students,
помогать
they will
тем,
always
кто
help those who
идут этим
follow
путем.
this path.
Если вы хотите найти Дона
If you
Хуана,
want to
то
find Don
находите
Juan,
его
seek
в тонкости,
him in the
чистоте.
purity, in the subtlety.
К нему нужно идти тропой
One has to
любви.
go to him through the path of love.